Gaur University and PhD from Siyusha.
Kanishka madam, mic.
So sorry. I would like to welcome Mr. Amish Shukla, our resource person for the day. I would also like to welcome our principal madam, Dr. Sudha Rathore. A brief introduction to our principal madam. Dr. Sudha Rathore is B.Pharm from Indore University, M.Pharm from Gaur University, and she has done her PhD from Siyusha College of Pharmacy, SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. She has worked on target-oriented drug delivery systems using microspheres, liposomes, erythrocytes as carriers during her PhD tenure. Madam is a recipient of Junior Research Fellowship by UGC during her M.Pharm and Senior Research Fellowship by UGC during PhD. Madam also holds the diploma in yoga from Gaur University. Her research paper was presented in CRS at Washington DC in the year 1993. She has more than 30 publications in national as well as international research journals. Madam also has worked in analytical and production department in pharmaceutical industries for 5 years, and was approved by FDA as an analytical chemist. Her areas of research includes liposomes, nanoparticles, microspheres, sustained release tablets, in situ gels, transdermal films, controlled release tablets, microemulsion based drug delivery systems, and film coated tablets. She has worked on many projects sponsored by UGC and Mumbai University. Madam is an approved principal by University of Mumbai, and she holds this post since last 20 years. She also has 2 patents on her credit. Madam is a member of various committees of University of Mumbai, which includes Result Moderation Committee, Vice Chancellor nominees in governing bodies of many colleges which are affiliated to university. She has translated 2 spiritual grants from Marathi to Hindi, which are published by renowned publishers. With this brief introduction, I would like to request our principal madam to address the gathering.
Thank you so much, Kanishka madam. Now I will speak something about our speaker and my college. Very good afternoon, one and all. I welcome all the delegates.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt, but can you please switch on your video, ma'am?
Am I audible, madam?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, but your video is not seen.
It's not there?
No.
Not seen?
No, ma'am.
Then you have to send somebody here. It's okay. I will continue. Am I audible, madam?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are audible. Yes, ma'am.
Very good afternoon, one and all. I welcome.
Camera is off.
I welcome all the delegates who are attending this very important webinar on wet granulation technology. At present, more than 60% pharmaceutical formulations in the global market are based on tablet formulations, and more than 75% tablet formulations use wet granulation technology. Hence, this topic is very important to understand from the basics. I am pleased to see that one of our alumni, Amish Shukla, is the speaker of today. I always have observed something special in his attitude towards his affection with the college. He was always a proactive student. Hence, he could develop himself very well while being a student of this college. He is very strongly associated with college as well as myself. Our college is founded by late Professor Javed Khan sir in 2004. This college is reaching excellence with the strong support from the management and the dedication of its staff. Our General Secretary, Honorable Mr. Wasim Khan, is keenly involved in the development of the college. The college is approved by AICTE and has also received 5 years approval from Pharmacy Council of India till 2024-25. OCP has secured NIRF ranking, band rank 76 to 100 from MHRD, and is ranked amongst the top 100 colleges across the country. Since last 2 years, all the courses, BPharm as well as 3 MPharm courses have been running with full intake. From the academic year 2021, our BPharm intake has increased up to 100. And because of the NIRF ranking, college is getting 5% PMSSS quota from Jammu and Kashmir over and above 100 intake. College is also running PhD course in pharmaceutics. We have very well equipped instrumentation facility and also an animal house facility that has received 5 years approval from central government agency CPCS-EA. It gives me great satisfaction to share that 194 students out of 388, that is 50% of our students are recipient of scholarships under various schemes. The teaching staff at OCP comprises of total of 16 doctorate and 1 postdoctorate faculty out of 21 faculties. Almost all the faculties are university approved, and the college maintains a required cadre ratio as per AICTE, that is professor, associate professor and assistant professor ratio. College is running PG courses in 3 branches, namely pharmaceutics 15 seats, quality assurance 15 seats, and pharmacology 10 seats. Currently, the college is involved in projects in industrial consultancy projects. I myself have registered 2 patents till now, and the 3rd one is under pipeline. College has received funding of rupees 12.5 lakhs for instrument purchase through the CSR funds from Lubrizol India Limited, brought by Dr. Vanita Kanse and Associates. OCP has signed MOUs with 11 different companies. Our faculty is working on various university funded projects. Faculties have contributed publications in various high impact factor journals of international repute. During the academic year 2021, 28 international publications have been made by our faculties. Our faculties are also involved in authoring books for students based on their academic curriculum. Dr. Mohib Khan is actively involved in writing books. Since last 4 to 5 years, our students are securing university topper positions in different teams of MPharm as well as BPharm level. College is having a very strong placement cell. This year, 9-day skill development program is organized for our final year and BPharm and MPharm students in collaboration with Rubicon Research Private Limited. I am happy to share that in 2020-21, 24 pharmaceutical companies visited our campus and 47 students were placed through various campus placements. The college also constitutes an entrepreneurship cell which organizes series of lectures on career guidance and entrepreneurship development. During this pandemic situation, college is involved in organizing series of webinars to reduce the gap between industries and academia. The senior and experienced faculty of our college is engaged in free GPAT classes for our students. With this brief introduction, I am completing my speech. Thank you so much. Enjoy this webinar. Over to you, Kanishka madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Principal Ma'am. Now I request Dr. Pradnya Palika Shanbag to introduce our speaker for the day and also to give a glimpse of today's webinar. Over to you, Pradnya Ma'am.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Department of Pharmaceutics, Oriental College of Pharmacy, I welcome you all to the webinar on advancements in wet granulation technology by Mr. Amish Shukla. Let me introduce you to the speaker of today. Mr. Amish Shukla is a senior executive, international business from Mexico, a business development professional with proven track record of improved market position and opportunities for sales growth for his organization. He has shown skillful performance in designing and implementing business accomplishment of business turnover and reviewing, interpreting market. He has vast experience of sales and business development operations across Middle East, North African markets. He was earlier associated with Gansons India and was responsible for entire business operations of Gansons across Middle East, North African market. I take pride in telling you that he is the alumnus of Oriental College of Pharmacy. He was MPharm topper of batch 2000. He was Best Student of the Year for BPharm 2015 and MPharm 2017. He was awarded as Distinguished Alumnus in 2019. He was winner of zonal level Avishkar Research Convention and represented Mumbai University at the state level during his MPharm tenure. Let me brief you about the webinar. You all must be aware of granulation process, which is an important unit operation in production of solid dosage forms. This process improves not only flow and compression properties, but also the product yield. Some of the highlights of this presentation: it will make you understand the challenges with conventional granulation approach. It will focus on the modern day granulation technology used in pharma industry. It will also make us know the automation in granulation and introduce the upcoming granulation technologies. I once again thank Mr. Amish Shukla for accepting our invitation and taking out time to share his expertise, his knowledge with. I request Mr. Amish Shukla to take over and start with his presentation by sharing the screen.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Principal ma'am. Thank you, Pradnya ma'am, for your kind words. It's always a great pleasure, to come here and talk about what I have learned over the past few years of being in the industry. And it's a great pride that today, I'm on the other side, being invited as a speaker. Like, I have attended numerous sessions at OCP by being a student. So thank you. So I'll share my screen and I'll just take you through the basics of the granulation and see what industry actually does in high shear granulation today. So I'll just share my screen and we'll start. I hope my screen is visible now.
Yes.
Okay. So today our topic for discussion is advancements in wet granulation. So let us all start from the very scratch. As I'll just brush up the few basics which we all know and we have studied since the very beginning of our pharmacy journey. As we talk about the oral solid dosage forms and in particularly tablets, which is a popular and widely used oral solid dosage form. I'm very much sure that you all know what it is, but I would like to just give us some short and simple facts about oral solid dosage forms, like tablets as oral solid dosage form. Like during the past 4 decades, the pharmaceutical industry, it has invested vast amounts of time and money in evolving the processes and technologies to develop tablets. Because this expenditure, on the other hand, if you see, is quite reasonable. because I mean, you will consider how valuable tablets as a dosage form are to the industry, because being the oral solid dosage form, they can be self-administered, and they are cheaper to manufacture. The process is quite simpler as compared to the other dosage forms which are manufactured like parenterals. There are stringent controls over the process, but it is not as stringent as you need to take care when you manufacture other dosage forms. So, and as Principal Ma'am said in the introduction, that almost 60 to 80% of the drugs that are formulated to produce systemic effects, they are marketed as oral solid dosage forms. And India is a very big generic market, and India is a high volume, low price generic market. So here most of the formulations which are formulated are tablets. So, I mean, I'll just take you through the stages of production of tablets. It's a 10-stage process. We'll just have a quick look at each one. We start with sifting and screening. Here, all the excipients and the APIs, whichever we will be using for the production of tablets, they are sifted and screened for any foreign particles, and also screened to make the particle size uniform so as to avoid segregation in the future processes. Then the sifted material is added into the granulator. Here we do the dry mixing step. Dry mixing is basically simple mixing of the API and the excipients inside the granulator. Then after dry mixing, we add the binder solution, and we start the granulation process. So the fourth step, it is also called as kneading or granulation. Here the actual granulation happens. Then after granulation, we pass the wet granules through the wet mill, which is placed at the discharge of the granulator for size calibration, so that you get a uniform, so as to increase the surface area of the wet milled granules, and your drying is faster. Then we move to the drying part, where the moisture which we added after the binder addition, during the time of binder addition, is removed, and you get a completely dry granules. So drying is performed used to be performed using tray dryers, but now since the technology is outdated, so the industry has moved to fluidized bed dryers for drying. After drying, we dry in the granules to get the granules of uniform particle size, which we need as per our formulation requirements. Then after dry milling, we do the blending, where we add the lubricants and glycans and we make the blend. And after blending, we take the ready blend to compression, where we compress the compression machine. This is the stage where tablets are formed. And the last one, that is coating, it's an optional step, where it may be used or it may not be used in all the formulations. So these were the stages of production of tablets. So, I mean, you all know the basic definition of granulation. But still, it is the process where small, fine, or coarse particles are converted into large agglomerates called granules. So, as students are in majority today, I'll just try to go a bit more into the basic, and we'll have a deeper look at the stages of granulation, and I'll try to make you understand what exactly is the granule formation process. So the mechanism of the wet granulation, it begins as soon as you add the liquid binder in the dry mix. Okay, so the binder can be in the liquid form or sometimes in the dry form. Okay, so it depends upon your formulation requirements. If the if your need is less, then you add the binder in the dry form directly into the mix. And if your binder requirement is more, you make a binder solution and then you add. So after you add the binder, it causes a thin and immobile film of liquid around. It forms a thin film around the liquid on the particles, and and as soon as the film is formed, the interparticulate distance between the particle reduces. And this reduced interparticulate distance increases the force of attraction. And it causes the van der Waals forces to come into the effect, and you get a granule. So this is the basic mechanism. And as you start the granulation process, there are different stages through which the granule formation goes. The first is the pendular state. If you see the image of the pendular state which I have displayed, this happens at the initial phase when the moisture level is very less. Okay, and here the particles have just started to come together, and they are held together by lens-shaped rings of liquid. But if you see the majority of the white portion, that is air. So air is still there between the particles which are being held together by the liquid. But as you move as you give more shear to the particles inside the granulator, it further moves from pendular to funicular stage. So here, this is the funicular state. The funicular state is an intermediary state where the air starts to displace between the particles, and you see more prominent liquid bridges have started to form. Then the last stage, or the stage where you say your wet granulation is complete, is the capillary state. Here all the air has been displaced and all of the particles are held together by the binder solution. Okay, but if you further add the binder solution, and if you do not control your rate of binder addition, and you continue the granulation, the capillary state moves to the suspension state. Here more and more the liquid has started to cover the particles of the binder, and you get a slurry. So we do not want a slurry in granulation. We want optimum granules for good flowability and goods of a specific size. So now moving forward, we'll see why do we need granulation. Though I mean, historically we started doing granulation, or the emphasis on granulation development started when automated high-speed tablet presses were invented. So the high-speed tablet presses require a uniform flow of material to the dies. So basically, the materials which were intended or used for compression, they must possess two important characteristics. That is, it should have fluidity and it should have compressibility. So good flow properties are essential for the transport of material through the hopper of the compression machine into the dies. So we understand that in order to get this, the material should be in a physical form that should flow smoothly, and it should flow uniformly. So the ideal physical form for such purpose is nothing but sphere, because sphere offers minimum contact surface between themselves and with the wall of the machine part through which it moves. But unfortunately, most of the materials that we use these days, they do not easily form spheres. So however, we can be satisfied with the shapes that approach sphere-like characteristic, like they improve flowability and they improve the compressibility. Therefore, we do granulation as a part of pharmaceutical process that attempts to improve the flow and compressibility of powder materials by forming sphere-like aggregates, which we call as granules. So the other important, the major reason why we do granulation is to improve the flow property of the API and the excipients which we are using these days. But it also helps to avoid segregation of different densities of powder which you mix. It also helps to increase the uniformity of drug distribution in the product. Then it also helps to facilitate metering or volumetric dispensing. Okay, so the continuous refinements and as the industry is progressing, there are continuous refinements in the regulatory requirements which are becoming more and more stringent these days. So for low dose products, where they are more potent and low dose is required, so you need to have blend uniformity, content uniformity, So these situations, it necessitated that the knowledge and technology of granule, of how to improve granule characteristics. Uh, it like what is the modern day requirement for granulation. So this necessitated, the stringent regulatory requirements necessitated that we should study more and more and improve the granulation process. So moving forward, the types of the batch granulation is divided into two types. One is the wet granulation, and the another one is dry granulation. So dry granulation, this process, as the name says, it usually involves granulation without the aid of any liquid binder. And it is used for drugs which are very much sensitive to moisture or very much heat sensitive. Like after granulation, you cannot dry them because they are heat sensitive. So this technique is used in such cases. So here the powder particles, they are agglomerated under high pressure, which we also called as a slugging, and we use roller compactors to form the slug mass, and that mass is then screened to get the desired granule size. But today we'll focus more on the other technique, which is widely and most commonly used in the industry, uh, called as wet granulation. As the name says, again, where you add liquid, which is generally the binder to the dry mix of powders, to get the wet mass, which is then dried and screened eventually to get the granules of the desired size. So, like students, like if you all remember, we have a practical in a suited syllabus, like if I remember clearly, where we used to perform wet granulation using mortar and pestle. So in that, we used to add all the excipients in the mortar and used to apply the force by mixing of the powders, and then used to add starch like binder until used to form a dough. I hope everyone might have performed it. Then the wet dough which was formed, we used to pass it through the mesh by just rubbing and forcing the dough through the top of the mesh, and we used to form small granules which we used to air dry or dry in the hot air oven. But like these were the things which which we used to do in practicals in college. But as you move to the industry, this scenario will change completely, because when you see the real life process in R&D or in production, our basic rationale will remain the same. That is, we have to make granules. Even in college we used to make granules, even in industry we have to make granules. But as you go to the industry, you'll see that these methods, they are replaced with certain technologies which have been developed, because the industry always aims to develop a method which is more robust, which is more reproducible, and it always gives the same desired results batch after batch which you take. Okay, so now speaking of the wet granulation, it is further categorically divided into two parts depending on the shear which we apply to produce the granules. So just remember the word shear, because in wet granulation, shear is a very important thing, is a very important parameter. Okay, because in layman's language, shear is nothing but, as you have seen or you do every day when you prepare dough for chapatis, and there you mix the flour with water and you apply forces with your bare hands continuously until you get a good wet soft dough. So similarly, decades of research in the industry, it has shown that optimum shear which you apply to the powder when you put that powder in the granulator is very important to produce good quality of granules. Okay, so better the shear, better will be your granule yield. You will get heavy or denser granules, and these heavy and denser granules are very much needed. In case if if you have a sustained or extended release formulation which is widely used these days. So first, to develop such a formulation, you need to have denser granules. So better the shear, as I said, better the shear you'll give to the wet mass, better will be the granule quality, resulting in heavy granulation and in turn providing optimum hardness to the tablets. So this process of wet granulation, like I'll just take you all in the history. So this process of wet granulation, it was historically derived and taken from the bakery industry. Okay, where they used to prepare dough for biscuits and cakes using mixers. Okay, so initially wet granulation was carried out in these all-purpose mixers called planetary mixers. If you can see the image, this is a planetary mixer, which is used in the bakery industry even now. So it is called as a planetary mixers because as you see the image, there are, if you see my cursor, there are two beaters. Okay, there are two beaters above the ball and they rotate on their axis and they revolve around the bowl. So the process is similar how Earth rotates and revolves around the sun. So based on that mechanism, it was given the name as planetary mixer. Okay, so when these traditional equipments were used in conventional wet granulation, the entire process was labor intensive and very much time consuming. So therefore, these equipments were not highly effective in mixing and providing optimum shear, which is required to produce dense and hard granules. And they also used to take more amounts of time, to distribute the binder evenly throughout the mass. So over a period of time, this technology became outdated, and these mixers were slowly replaced by other technologies which were developed. But still, I'll say that 1 out of 100 formulation or is developed on the planetary mixer, because if you have set a formula and it is performing well, industry never tends to change that. But okay, the ratio is 1:100. So now moving forward, the another method under the low shear wet granulation, which is used to prepare granules, is top spray granulation using fluidized bed processing equipment. So if you look at this picture, the powders are fluidized inside the chamber of the equipment in the stream of incoming hot air. And there's a strategically placed spray nozzle on top, which sprays the fine atomized binder solution onto the fluidized powder bed. So the continuous spraying of binder solution onto the powder in mid-air, it coats them and it coats them on the surface, and the powder particles come together to form agglomerates. And as they are suspended in the mid-air, they are dried simultaneously. So in this process, granulation and drying, it's being done in a single equipment in a single step. Okay, so but this technique, as I said, it's a low shear technique. So this technique, it gives you porous granules and the strength is very less. If you do not control the parameters properly, then in this technique you'll get more fines and less granules. So this technique is used under a lot of expert supervision, and a lot of expertise is required to perform granulation using top spray method. And of course, porous granules, we do need porous granules. Certain formulations like orally disintegrating tablets, where you need really fast disintegration, such formulations are performed using top spray granulation. So these were the methods where shear provided to form granules was less. Okay, so in the industry, as I said, there was a need for an equipment which can accomplish, efficient dry mixing of the powders and wet granulation by providing the sufficient shear to produce dense and hard granules. Because the more dense and hard granules you get, better will be your tablet quality, more strong will be your tablet, and the friability issues will be very less. Okay, so the industry started using high shear granulators or rapid mixer granulators for that process. So in the image, this is the image of a high shear granulator, and you can see a fluidized bed dryer next to it, and it is connected. So the wet milled granules are directly passed into the fluidized bed dryer, and it is dried. Okay. So, but before we move further in this topic, I will just tell you all that we saw top spray granulation, where granulation and drying used to happen simultaneously. But in this process and in the tablet manufacturing stage, we saw granulation was followed by drying. So there were which are of course two different steps. So you guys might be wondering that why two different steps when one equipment, that is top spray granulation, is enough to do the task. But basically on the usage in pharmaceutical industry, it is believed that the combination of a rapid mixer granulator and a fluid bed dryer is preferred more over top spray granulator, because the combination of those two machines has more advantages over the single top spray granulator, because this process, as it says that it's a more robust and reliable process. Robust in the term, as you get consistent and reproducible results, as you only have to set the recipe and it will work automatically. Whereas the top spray granulation, as I said, you always get different results based on your skill. Okay, based on and it's all dependent on our skill, how we control the parameters in the top spray process. And the top spray process is more complex, and you need more process expertise to
Actually, there is some internet problem. It seems some technical problem. So sorry for the interruption.
dear all, I deeply apologize for the issue. There was some network issue and I was disconnected automatically. We'll start.
Did you speak to Tawfiq sir? Ah, yes, okay.
So sorry guys. So as I was saying, I was talking about the combination of why the granulator and dryer, as two separate step is important, is better as compared to the single top spray process. As I was saying that this process it's a more reliable and robust process, because robust in the term because you get consistent and reproducible results, because in this process you just need to uh, set the recipe and it will work automatically, whereas in top spray you need more expertise and more process knowledge so as to control that top spray process. So now, this is also, I'll say, like when you scale up your products from R&D to production, you need to look into multiple factors that affects the product performance, and you need to fine tune that factors as you move from R&D to pilot to production. Okay, so whereas even though the rapid mixer and the dryer is a two different machine combination, but when you look into multiple factors of scale up in a product with this combination, it is much more easier. As you need not to scale up various parameters as compared to top spray granulation. In top spray granulation, when you scale up, you need to look into multiple parameters. Okay, so scale up is easy with these two machines. Okay, and on the other hand, the combination of these two machines, they also offer a better binder substrate interaction. Okay, and this process yields homogeneous, strong granules, and they have very much superior compaction properties. So, this process, owing to various advantages over the single one, is also well accepted globally with various regulatory bodies. Okay, so now we'll see what are the factors which affects the high shear granulation. Sorry. While developing a formulation, researchers tend to focus. I mean, being as a research scientists, we all tend to focus more on the process attributes and the formulation attributes. But we should also consider equipment attributes, which also has a vast impact in developing a formulation, and it plays a major role when you scale up from R&D to pilot to production. Some of the equipment attributes we'll discuss in detail today. First, let us just quickly go through the process attributes, which is the binder addition method and rate. So binder can be added in RMG using I'm using the word RMG as a short form for rapid mixer granulator. Okay, so binder can be added in an RMG using different methods. That is, you either pour the binder directly in the RMG, in the cases like starch-based binders, where they are very, very viscous, you cannot pump them, or in terms of normal flowable binders, water-based binders, you directly pump the binders into the granulator using spray nozzles or manifold type system. Manifold type is, if you all have seen drip irrigation, where it's a single line and there are multiple holes, and it sprays the binder evenly on the entire granulation area, I mean the granulator bed. So the method of binder introduction, it also depends on the solubility and the components of mixture. Okay, in our formulation. So, but our aim is that the powder mass should merely be moist, and it should not become pasty. Therefore, there is a limit to the amount of solvent which we use. So there are formulations where only small amount of binder is permissible. So the binder is directly dry blended with powders in the dry mix. Okay, but when large quantity is required, the binder needs to be dissolved in the liquid. So in such a case, the solubility of binder also plays a very important role in determining the choice of method. Okay, since the solution should be fluid enough to get dispersed evenly in the mass. Okay, so now moving to the next one, that is the wet mixing time. So wet mixing time also, I mean, we should also focus on the mixing time, and it should be optimum so as to get good granules quality. Because if you do the over granulation, I mean, if you exceed your granulation time, wet mixing time, you'll get bigger lumps or the big granule mass. But if you under granulate it, I mean, if you stop your granulation process before your end point, you'll get fluffy powders which will yield more fines. So our process should be such that we get optimum granules to fine ratio. Of course, fines are important. They fill the void, when you go for compression. So the optimum granule to fine ratio is 60-40, which you use in the pharma industry. Now moving to the formulation attributes that affect the high shear granulation is the bulk density of the material. Okay, so this material bulk density, it determines the load which is to be taken for granulation in a granulator. So material with low bulk density, they are very fluffy. For example, formulations of drugs like paracetamol and ibuprofen, these two molecules are widely used and day-to-day used in our lives. But formulation of these two molecules is a headache when it comes to granulation, because they are very, very fluffy, and BD is very less. So the shear which is required for the powders to move inside and to get the granule is not uniform. Okay, so it takes more time to granulate such products. The lower tablet bed and the lower powder bed, it receives more shear, whereas the upper powder bed, it receives less shear because of the fluffiness. So there are various difficulties when it comes in formulation of such products. So material bulk density is an important formulation attribute which we should keep in mind. So now looking at the equipment attributes that affect the process of high shear granulation. So first is the profile of impeller and chopper. Okay. So this is the impeller and chopper, which is present inside a rapid mixer granulator. It's an important component, or you say they are the essential components in a rapid mixer granulator. Which affect the granule characteristics to a great extent, as entirely the process is dependent on their design. Okay, the process is entirely dependent on their design and the functional parameters. So the function of impeller, which rotates from around 100 to 500 RPM, is to provide optimum shear to the powder mass. Okay, so this impeller, it rotates and it gives shear to the powder mass. What you give with the hand in your day-to-day life or in your college practicals, the impeller, it gives similar kind of shear to the powder, but it gives to a very great extent. Okay, whereas the chopper, whose RPM ranges from 1000 to 3000 RPM, it breaks the lumps which is formed during the process of granulation, and it also aids in distribution of binder liquid. So we just switch on the chopper towards the end of the granulation process, so that what all big fine lumps which are formed at the time, after the rotation of impeller, we just break them, to reduce their size. Okay, various types of impellers and choppers are used in the industry. Various types, I mean to say various designs. Okay, every manufacturer or every brand has a different type of impeller and chopper with a different profile. But the basic aim is the same, that we have to provide optimum shear to the powders. So now, if you see, I'll show you the impeller profile. So the impeller profile, it plays a very important role in granulation, because your impeller rotates at a specific RPM, And because of this rotation, centrifugal forces are created, and this centrifugal force, it pushes the material on the outer side of the bowl. Outer side, I mean to say, onto the side walls of the bowl. Okay, so when your material is pushed onto the side walls because of centrifugal force, at the end of the granulation, you'll see most of your materials are stick onto the sides, and less of your material is rotating inside. So your granulation will not be proper. Okay, because you want all of your material to be continuously circulating in the zone of the impeller, where impeller is rotating. So your impeller profile should be such that, or the impeller design should be such that it should not only provide proper shear to the material, but it should also recirculate the material within the shear zone, rather than just throwing it out onto the sides. So if you see the profile of this impeller, if you see the profile of this impeller, it is the tip. You see the tip. This tip is slightly curved at the end. It's not straight. It's curved at the end. This aids in recirculation of the powder towards the center when impeller is rotating. So when as I said about the centrifugal forces, so it negates that to a certain extent, and it brings back that slight bend. It brings back the powder in the impeller rotating zone. Okay, so your wastage is very less, and less of the powder goes and sticks onto the side. So apart from this impeller design or impeller profile, there is also one more thing which is important when you select impeller. It's called a rake angle. So basically, rake angle is an engineering parameter. It's nothing but the angle of inclination of your impeller with respect to the base. Okay, if you see this, your impeller is slightly curved at a certain angle when it is placed in the bowl. Okay, so this rake angle, it plays a critical role in your granulator performance. Okay, so it plays a role on the basis of how the shear is applied. So if your rake angle is exact 90, means the impeller with respect to the base is 90 degrees upright. Okay, so shear which will give to the powder will be maximum. Okay, that is what we need. We need to give maximum shear to the powder. But since it is at 90 degree, it will get more resistance from the powder moving, because the powder will not let the impeller move properly. Okay, because it is moving at 90 degrees. Okay, on the other hand, if I make the impeller flat to the surface, okay, it will get less resistance. I mean, impeller will move freely into the granulator, but the shear which you need to give to the powder will be improper, and it will yield poor granule characteristics. So while selecting, while designing this thing, the rake angle should always be optimum. Like it should give shear, and it should also face less resistance. So it is said that a rake angle anywhere between 35 to 40 degrees is good enough for a granulator to perform. Okay, so another parameter which we keep in mind is the tolerance limit. So tolerance limit is nothing but the distance is the tolerance distance between the impeller and the base. Okay, so how much distance you keep your impeller from the base of the granulator. Okay, because lesser is the distance, the better it is, because less number of powder will go and accumulate onto the base, resulting in lesser wastage. So your tolerance limit should also be adjusted. So the ideal tolerance limit which is kept is around 2 to 2.5 mm. Okay. So now moving forward to the bowl design. So the shape of the mixing bowl could be cylindrical or conical. Okay, you get cylindrical bowls, you get conical bowls, but the mixing bowl is also jacketed for heating or cooling the contents in the bowl. Like, there are certain formulations where you need to heat, you need to apply heat to the blend of, or not blend exactly, mix of API and excipients. So here the bowl is jacketed. You can pass hot water or hot steam so as to provide that heat while doing granulation. Or at in certain formulation, you need to supply cold water, to keep it cool. So both the facilities is possible, in rapid mixer granulator. And the bowl design, it should be such that the bends, if you see this bends, there are bends. So these bends, it should, facilitate vortexing of the powders during granulation, and it should help in continuous recirculation of powders inside the shear zone. Okay. So as I was saying, as we have used shear zone a lot of time, in this presentation, I'll just tell you that shear zone is the zone which is formed near the impeller, okay, when it rotates. So ideally, it is believed that for good granulation, the material should continuously revolve inside the shear zone. Like, it should come in, it should go out of the shear zone. The material should always be in the shear zone, for good to yield good granules. Okay. So now moving to the next part, that is the endpoint detection. So the granule properties for a specific formulation, they are the function of the process parameters, such as the impeller speed, amount of granulating fluid, and granulation time. So the time to end the granulation process during a high shear granulation becomes very critical. I mean, one should know when to stop, because the properties of the granules produced after determine the ultimate quality and performance of the finished dosage forms, or the tablets which will be produced. So we should know when to stop. So the determination of the granulation endpoints is very necessary. So in the industry, there are various methods to which we determine the granulation endpoint, and we call them as conventional method, because I've categorized it into two parts: the conventional method and the advanced method. Okay, so the conventional method, as the name says, they are inherent to us in terms of the R&D scale development, where we do physical characterization of the granulation endpoint. So the first conventional method is the banana breaking test. This is a simple conventional method used in R&D even today. Okay, as I showed you the history that granulation, the wet process of wet granulation has been derived from the bakery industry. So similarly, in that they used to take the dough in between the index finger and thumb. Okay, and you press it. So if the dough breaks into two parts, it means the granulation is complete. So as this is a layman's approach, so this method is not standardized as valid approach for detection of granulation endpoint. Okay, so the next method is the time-based. So the time-based endpoint detection is when you categorize stages of granulation into time-based approaches. Like, if you remember the stages of tablet manufacturing, we have categorized the process as dry mixing, that is for 10 minutes, binder addition 2 minutes, then the kneading or granulation 4 minutes. So when you are thoroughly doing granulation of a certain product over the course of time, you automatically get aware about the time by calculating and observing the process daily. So then automatically that for this product the time taken is this much. So every time you do it, you have a time estimation that the process is complete or it is about to be completed. Okay, but again, as I said, this is a conventional method, but when you replicate this from small R&D scale machines to bigger production models, the same time is not possible because of difference in various parameter characteristics. Okay, so the advanced methods were developed. So the advanced method which are being used in the industry for determining endpoint is the amperage and torque. Okay, so amperage is nothing but checking the current consumption by the motor of your granulator, which is directly related to the impeller, because your motor is rotating your impeller. Okay, so in amperage we check the current consumption. There is a display of amperage on your screen when you perform granulation. Okay, so initially when you are only dry mixing the powders inside the granulator, the current consumption or amperage is very less, because very less power is utilized by the impeller to rotate inside, because it's a dry powders. Okay, and it's not offering much resistance in the movement of the impeller, so the amperage is very less. But as the process goes by and you start adding binder, and then you enter the kneading or granulation stage, the amperage it steeply increases, because now more and more work is being done by the impeller to move around, and it's getting more resistance in the movement. Okay, so the amperage increases. So as your amperage increases, you near the end of of the granulation. Okay, so it states that the granulation process is complete. So in simple words, the fundamental which we used in amperage based detection is your 10 standard formula. V is equal to IR, that is voltage is equal to current into resistance. So that basic formula we use to check the amperage. Okay, so now we'll see a new method which is being used in the industry for determination of granulation endpoint, that is torque based approach. Okay, the torque based approach is of two types. First is the calculated and the actual torque. Okay, first I'll tell you what is torque. So torque is nothing but the measurement of force, that is faced by a body when it is rotating on its axis. Okay, when a body is rotating on its axis, the force which is coming on the body is called torque. Okay, so based on torque, you get more accurate endpoint detection for the products which are very critical. Okay, although amperage is used widely these days, but there are certain products which are critical. So in that, the industry asks for the torque based endpoint detection. Okay, so there are two options, as I said. First being the measurement of actual or real torque. So in this, we use a torque sensor, okay, which measures the cohesive force and the tensile strength at different stages of granulation. Okay, and based on that, you get the actual endpoint. So here, actual torque sensing device is placed inside a granulator, but as I said, I mean, it is only used for critical products, and this torque sensor is very costly. It is manufactured only by one company across the world. It's based in US. So it is very costly. So the cost of the spare cost, I mean, when you want to replace it, I mean, it is of a certain value. So the industry has found another alternative, because when there's a will, there's a way. When you want to save money, you always search for better and other alternatives. So the other alternative to this is where they go for calculated torque based approach. So here there is no sensor, okay, and there is an algorithm in the software. Okay, the software which we use to run the machine is designed in such a way that there is a simple formula, and it calculates and displays the torque automatically based on the reading of power consumption. Like it reads various parameters, voltage, power consumption, and the formula automatically calculates and displays the torque value. So first is the mathematical expression, and the other one is the real. But both are quite the values which you get in both the cases are very near to each other. So you can prefer anyone. So apart from these are the methods which are even being used today in the industry. But as Elon Musk is trying to go onto the Mars, so even pharma industry is evolving like anything every day, and technologies are coming up. So there are several other emerging technologies for endpoint detection, like the NIR method. Okay, it's an emerging technology. It has not been yet commissioned, but in the NIR means near IR. Okay, so in this method, it measures the moisture content of the granules and the size of the granules which are being formed inside. Okay, so it directly gives you that, like, okay, these are the size of the granules which are formed inside the granulator, and this is the moisture content. So you can plan your further steps accordingly. And then there's also an acoustic emission technology where sound which is created by different size of granules formed, you can detect the endpoint of your granulation, by acoustic emission, by just using the sound. Okay, but as I said, these technologies are in the very early development stages, and there are no conclusive commercial use evidence, as they are still trying to overcome certain challenges. So these were the till here we have discussed about the granulator. Now we'll move to see the challenges. What were the challenges which we face with the conventional granulation approach? Okay, so I have listed few points which we'll discuss. What are the challenges when it comes what are the challenges which arise with the conventional granulation approach? So first is, of course, the footprint of conventional granulation suite is very much as compared to the new compact granulation suites. Granulation suites means like you have the entire processing equipments in a single room, like sifting, milling, blending, drying, everything is present in one room. So that together is called as a granulation suite. Okay. So the footprint of the conventional granulation suite was very much because the old factories, they were designed in such a way, and that time the cost of land was less, the space was more, so and the machines were bulky. So it was designed in that way. But now in these modern times, every square meter of your space has it counts in terms of value. Then because of the outdated designs and various rate limiting steps, the process time in conventional approach is much more as compared to newer technologies. Okay, and also the cost of operation is more because of increased utility and because of increased manpower cost and increased utility consumption. So your operation cost is increased. I mean, when your process time is more, like when you take one batch in one day with the conventional granulation, and you take 3 batches in one day with the modern one. So the less is your productivity. More is your process time, less is your productivity, less is your profit. Okay. Then there are certain rate limiting steps like sifting, milling. They drastically affect the performance of the system. They are rate limiting. We call it as rate limiting because your entire process time, these are the few steps which can either increase your process time or either decrease your process time if you do not control them properly. Okay, so because of being conventional open type system, there is no control over dust generation, which results from the process, and this also leads to poor industrial hygiene, as the operators are more frequently exposed to the dust that may contain various APIs, and prolonged exposure of the same can lead to long-term health issues. Then this dust generation and poor industrial hygiene also leads to product cross contamination, where you process different molecules in the same place. There's always a chance of cross contamination if you do not take proper care. Then all of the above points which we discuss, it leads to non-adherence of the GMP guidelines. Okay, so the GMP guidelines are followed less in such cases. Now, if you look at the images of a typical granulation room, the first one, there's a granulator and the bowl of fluid bed dryer. which needs to be manually pushed. Okay, you need to push the ball manually beneath the granulator, and you can see the space which is consumed. Okay, in the first one, and it's an open condition. So, and there's no wet milling step, which is being done in such case. Okay, in the second image, you can see there are various operators. They are doing sifting and screening of the materials before they put them in the granulator. And you can see, because of the open condition and because of the manual operation, you can see the amount of dust which is generated on the floor. Okay, and the last image is of a blender in which a loading drum is attached. Okay, which is used to load the blender with granules manually. Okay, so suppose your blend batch is of 300 kg. Okay, and because of the limitations in the size of the loading bin, your bin is of 50 kg. So you can imagine how much time will it take for you to load 300 kg with a 50 kg batch, and then after the process is complete, you have to unload the same thing. Okay, so material handling is very important in these days when you look at granulation suite. Okay, so now as we discuss the bottleneck, so we'll see what are the process that slows your granulation time, and what are the newer technologies that have come to replace this conventional one. So it is a saying that a chain is as strong as its weakest link. Okay, so until and unless we work on the bottlenecks and loopholes of our granulation line, we will not have a robust and reproducible system with us. Okay, so here in case of high shear granulation, it is believed that sifting, wet milling, and dry milling, these are the bottlenecks. And the below, the shown images, they are of the conventional equipments which are used to perform the process. So starting with the first one, it's the image of a vibro sifter, okay, which is being used since a long time to perform the sifting or the screening operation for the API and the excipients before putting them into the granulator. Okay, however, this technology works perfectly fine even today. Many of the industries are using it, but the charging is manual. You need to manually charge, or you need to use a lifting positioning system, or you have to lift a bin and keep on top of the vibro sifter, and then discharge the materials into the sifter for sifting. Okay, but because of being manual, there's a lot of dusting, and this is called as a rate limiting step, because it takes a huge amount of time to complete the sifting operations, because there are certain APIs and certain products which are very fluffy, and they do not pass through the mesh properly. I mean it takes a lot of time and for you to do the sifting of such products. Okay, then this is the traditional equipment, and it works on the principle of gyratory motion. Okay, where you add the powder from top, and there is a vibratory motor which shakes the sieve inside, and the powder gets screened. So this conventional vibro sifter, you can get an output of 100 to 350 kgs per hour of powder of different bulk densities. Okay, so now coming to the milling part, the oscillating, you can see the multi-mill, two conventional machines, that is the multi-mill and the oscillating granulator. Okay, so when you do conventional milling, when you do conventional dry milling, first the dried granules from the granulator, first the dried granules from the dryer, they are passed through dry mill and are milled through the screen of desired granule size. Okay, then after doing the first milling step, whatever oversize of granules which remain in the mill, we take it and we screen it again, and then we again pass it and we again do the milling. So until and unless we get the granule of our desired size, we keep on repeating this step. So as I said, it's a time consuming, and the process time is increased because of this, and it takes a lot of time for your batch to get compressed and move further ahead in the process. Okay, so there are other limitations in this, like the output you get is of only 100 to 400 kgs per hour, and there is increase in process time. Then there's more noise, more dust generation, and because of that, as I said, it causes exposure of the dust to the other people present in the granulation area. Okay, so this is I'll show you a video of a newer technology which has come as an option to the sifting which we used to do with the vibro sifter. I'll just quickly play the video. Just a second. Okay. So this is a new technology called centrifugal sifting. Okay, here in centrifugal sifting, you have a basket which rotates at a very high speed, and it uses the centrifugal force. So whatever powder you put from the top in this rotating basket, it will throw the powder onto the side, and the powder will get swift very quickly.
Amish,
Yes, sir.
the video we are not able to see. Can you just check that?
Yeah. Yes. So now it's visible.
Yes.
Now
please
it is
play that.
visible. Video.
So this is the newer technology which has come called as QuickSift for fast and effective centrifugal screening. It uses the centrifugal force. You add the powder from the top, and it's the basket is rotating at a very high speed, and there is a screen which is rotating along with the basket, and it quickly sifts the powder out. And then, since it's rotating, you can add finger guards and other, you can do other modifications. Okay, so we saw the video of the centrifugal sifter. So why sorts are sifting? I mean, sifting operation is the time, the process time which we used to take in the conventional method gets significantly reduced by use of this technology. Okay, and it's a very high speed sifter. You get a sifting capacity up to 2,000 to 4,000 kgs per hour. Okay, no matter how fluffy your powder is, it will get sifted because of the principle. See, I mean, machine design is all on the principle. There, the principle of gyratory motion was used, where your sieve used to get, where we used to shake the screen sieves using the vibratory motor, and slowly it used to sift. Here, the screen is rotating at a high speed, and with centrifugal force, the powders are getting sifted. So with this, you can perform this operation even under vacuum. Okay, where I'll show that video as well when I'll show you the video of granulation suite. Okay, then there's reduction in airborne dust, and it and minimize the product wastage. Okay, so there's no wastage of product. You can see that because of less dust generation, and you get 100% product recovery. and it is very ideal for high capacity processing. There are certain companies which manufacture certain products day in day out. Like all the 3 batches which you take in a day will be of the same product, and the production is the capacity is very high. Like the batch sizes are 1500 kgs or more. So in that case, such a if in such high batch sizes, if you use the vibratory sifter, the conventional sifter, your process time will be very much. Like it will take half of your day to sift the product. But so these technologies are used at those places where you need to reduce your sifting time. Okay, and then there's a spoiler arm attachment for delumping. Like when you add powders, if there are lumps, so you need not to use your hands and break the lumps. So there is a delumper which also rotates along with the screen, and it sifts the material. So this was about the sifting. Now moving towards the wet calibration. So always after high shear granulation, when we process, when we put the material into the dryer, it is always important to do wet milling or wet calibration. So if you neglect that wet calibration step and you directly dry your product, it affects your drying time drastically, and your drying time will be increased. Okay, so when you discharge your material from a high shear granulator, even though there's a chopper, okay, but it cannot calibrate the material evenly. The function of chopper is just to break the big lumps. Okay, so if you skip this wet calibration step and you load the material into the dryer and dry it, there's a phenomena called case hardening, okay, which is observed. So I'll tell you what is case hardening. Okay, so case hardening is where your material is perfectly dried from the surface. Okay, so if you skip this wet calibration and you directly take out the wet granules from the granulator and you directly put it in the fluid bed dryer for drying, so you observe that your granules are big. So after drying, you'll see that the surface of the granules will be dry completely, but still there will be moisture inside because of the improper size and shape of granules which were dried without passing through the wet mill. So when you dry mill that granules, you see the extrusion effects. Like you'll not get proper dry granules. You'll get long extrudes because of the moisture which is still present. So wet milling should be done. It should be added as a step in between the granulation and the drying to negate that extrusion effect. Okay, so wet calibration. See, as you can see, the position it is placed just at the discharge of the granulator. Okay, and at the starting point of your fluid bed dryer. Okay, so there is a small wet mill, or you call it as a wet mass disperser. Okay, so if you also skip this step, it also causes under drying or over drying. Okay, over drying, it results to the smaller particles which are present in the dryer bed. So as they are small, your particle size is not uniform. So the smaller granules will get dried fast. Okay, so and the bigger granules or the bigger lumps, they will take some time to dry. So after you complete the drying process, and you'll see that smaller particles they have over dried and become brittle. Okay, and when you mill and when you dry mill them, after drying, you'll get more fine. So your fine generation will be more in that case. Okay, whereas on the other hand, there are bigger lumps which have dried from the surface, but they still carry moisture inside. So when you dry mill that granules, either you'll get the extrusion effect, or they will form a smear onto the screen of the mill, on the dry mill. Okay, they will blind the dry mill screen, and they will not let any further material to pass because they are wet and they have formed a smear onto the surface of the screen. So in order to negate such effect, it is always advised, to go for wet milling, where your granules are milled through the wet mill, which is placed at the discharge of the granulator, and it has a V-shaped impeller which rotates at a high speed, and it has a the screen size. If you see the screen which is used in this picture, the screen is of 16 mm. So you uniformly pass all of your wet granules through a 16 mm screen. So your granule size is uniform when you go for drying. So, and your surface area is also reduced. So this further reduces, this aids in drying. Okay, there's faster drying, and your process time in drying is reduced. Okay, so now coming to the third advancement in overcoming the bottleneck in particle sizing is this conical mill. Okay, I mean, most of you might know this because it's there in our college. So now controlling the particle size in granulation is very important because as the granule size is known to affect the average tablet weight, is known to affect the average tablet weight, and your particle size also affects the disintegration time, it affects the friability, it affects the flowability. So there are various factors that are depending on the particle size. So you need to have a very tight control over granule particle size distribution. So you need to select your screen size, you need to select your mill very according to the particle size which you need. Okay, so after introduction of the conical mills, the challenges which we used to face in the conventional technologies which I've showed before, they were overcome because and the process time were further reduced to a great extent. Okay, so the principle of this machine is somewhat similar to that of the centrifugal sifter which we saw. Okay, there is a high speed. We saw a high-speed basket. Okay, so there's a similar basket where there's a there's an impeller. Okay, and it rotates at a very high speed and it mills the granules. Okay, so these type of mills, they offer more advantage over the conventional system mills. Like the throughput is high and it gives you the maximum productivity. You can process up to a speed of 1200 kgs per hour. Okay. And this mill, it can be used for both wet and dry milling, and it offers a very tight control over the particle size distribution. It gives the desired granule size in a single pass. So if you remember, I told you that, there was an option that you need to rescreen and re-mill the granules in the conventional method until and unless you get the granules of the desired size. So this mill, it eliminates that option. You get the granules of your desired size in a single pass. Okay, and this offers better GMP compliance. There's low dust, heat, and noise generation, and the scalability from lab to pilot to production is very much easier and uniform. Okay, so these were the bottlenecks which we saw. So now we move to the last part of our discussion, that is the automation. Okay, as I said, that 42% of today's work can be automated, leaving more time for what really matters. Okay, and you say that augmented human labor, it's a inclusive opportunity and not a threat. Like you can, if you automate your granulation system, you can save more time and you can utilize that time and manpower in doing something else. So as today's world is moving more towards the automation, time and manpower cost saving has become an important has become an important factor, to achieve better profits. So as I said, India being a generic market, here the volume of production matters a lot for sustainable business. Higher is the volume, better is the market share or the profit which you will achieve. Okay, so the most of the machines which are being used, we are using automation more now, and we are trying to make the machines less manual. Okay, so the machines which we use now, they are recipe based. Okay, you have different recipe for different products which you set in the machine, and it controls all the set parameters automatically. and it gives you the end result with very less human intervention. Like you just need to enter your parameters in the recipe. Suppose this is the recipe for metformin. Okay, so this should be the granular dry mixing time, this should be the binder addition, this should be the wet milling, then this should be the incoming air temperature, this should be the incoming air volume for the dryer. So you can automate everything by just entering the everything, all the parameters in the recipe, and the process continues automatically. So now, as regulatory guidelines, they have become more stringent, and everything which you do needs to be documented. And, until and unless it is documented, no auditor believes that you have actually done it. So it has become a thumb rule now in the industry that that if it's what you have to show what you have done. Okay, if any of steps are missing, or if any of the documents are missing, you cannot validate or prove that that action has really been performed. Okay, so centralized data storage has become very important for every step you perform. So now the program automation and control which we use in the industry, they have multi-level user access. Like you can actually set in the machine that, okay, this is he's the operator. So operator can only access to these many parameters. Then there is supervisor. So supervisor will come and will enter the recipe of the product. Okay, then there is the administrator who will have more access to the product. Like as you increase the user levels, your chance for making the mistakes in the process will be reduced. So the machines, the automations, they now offer multi-level user access. Like the operator, he will not have much more process expertise, so he'll only refer the BMR. Okay, BMR mein ye likha hai, you have to follow these parameters, so he'll only look into that. Whereas the supervisor will have more expertise, so he'll control more parameters. So you can lock the parameters depending on the user level, and you can give the access of the system based on the level of usage, like the operators, supervisors, managers, and the main administrators. Okay, then as I said, batch recipe management. So you can manage your recipe nowadays in a single system. You can simple machine, you can keep 99 recipes, but you can when you add the centralized data storage in that, you can keep unlimited, infinite number of recipes in your system. Okay, so you can for every batch, for every record, you'll get what recipe you have set for this batch. And if you get a certain complaints from market after your product is launched. Okay, then also you can keep a common operating system for multiple process. Like you can use a common system for performing the part of sifting and granulation in one axis, in one operating system. In the next system, you can take drying and dry milling and blending. So you can have a common operating system for multiple process. So this reduces your labor intensive work, and this reduces your time, this gives you better GMP compliance. Also, there is a software which is proposed these days, which maintains each and individual record by the machine. Okay, so there were many cases where miscalculation or data manipulation were reported by the regulatory authorities. Okay, where the manufacturers, they used to manipulate the data on their own. So the new technology so to avoid this, it was proposed that they should have a software based system which will keep the record, and it will be in a non-editable format. Like whatever you'll do, it will be recorded and it will be documented. Okay, so that system is called as 21 CFR SCADA system. So 21 is nothing but 21 CFR Part 11 documentation guidelines, which is a FDA guideline, and SCADA system is the supervisory, control, and data acquisition system, which controls and stores all of your data. So such a system, it records everything that's happening during the process of granulation and it documents it. And it answers the 4 W's of the FDA. Okay, you know, who did it, when did it, I mean, what, when, who, and why. So it is like, who did it? You'll have the answer for all the 4 W's. Like, who did it means the operator, supervisor, etc., who is performing the operation. Then what has been done, like what all parameters which were kept to get the results, what all were the reading recorded, then when it was done, records time, it records time, it records date, and for each step which you perform, then why it was done. So it records you know, if you do some changes in the parameters, like your initial temperature you have kept this much, but you see over a course of time that you're not getting the desired result, you change the parameters. So this system, it will record even that. So you can you know, when your FDA auditor asks you why it was done, so you have the answer for that as well. So these were the few basic things which I have seen in the industry, and I tried to show it to you today. But moving, I mean, ending the presentation, I'll just show you, you know, a granulation suite, like all the stages with all the latest technologies, both the open type and the integrated type. Okay, so we'll see both the things one by one. Sir, is my screen visible?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So this is a open type granulation system. This is not a conventional one, though there are certain conventional machines which is used in this. Okay, but you can go with such, I mean, the industry opts for such a type of granulation suites when there are multiple products which is to be granulated in a single granulation room. Okay, when you have 400 products, 500 products, and you have to granulate that in a single room, so you go for such open type of system. Based on the room layout, like if you have a good amount of height, you go with this type of system. So this first is the security screening step, or sifting we call. This is a vibro sifter. This is the conventional vibro sifter. Here we have what we have done. We have used a lifting and positioning device. If you see this this device, it's a lifting and positioning device. It lifts the bin filled with the excipients or the APIs which needs to be sifted over onto the top of the sifter, and it positions them, and it provides security sifting. So all of your products are getting sifted. Now, once your sifting operation is complete, you take the sifted material and you load with the use of same lifting and positioning device onto the granulator. This is a rapid mixer granulator.
Amish.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think can you just share it again, because there is some problem, I guess, in your video. It is a video, right?
Yeah, it's a video. You cannot see it, sir.
No, I thought it was the PPT, but the video is not visible right now.
Okay.
But it is visible here, sir.
Video?
Yeah.
Madam?
No, madam, video is not seen. Only the slide is seen.
Acha, he is playing video.
Yes.
He
yes,
was
yes.
Okay, I'll reshare the slides, sir. I'll reshare my screen, sir.
Yes.
So now you can see, sir.
Yes, I think this is fine.
Okay. So this is the first step where we have lifted we have placed the bin of the excipients over to the over the vibrator sifter, and we have sifted the materials. Now the sifted material we'll load over granulator. So now your entire sifted material, the AP and the excipients is loaded into the granulator for dry mixing, the first step. Okay. So this is the impeller. So now we have started with the dry mixing. After that, we spray the binder. So this is the manifold type of system which I was talking about. It's kind of a drip, if you have seen the drip irrigation system, you have a series of holes through which the binder comes into the granulator, and it uniformly distributes the binder all over the. Now, after binderation, we start the chopper for de-lumping. So now your granulation process is complete. We place the bin bowl of the FBD and we pass the material through wet mill. This is the wet mill. And after wet milling, we place the bowl of wet milled granules inside a dryer. This is fluidized by dryer, where drying is taking place. You can see the materials are suspended in the air and they are getting dried. So now after drying, you again lift the FBD bowl and you directly place it over the conical mill for dry milling. This is the conical mill which I was showing, the newer technology. It's very fast and you get a very high output and very less generation. So now whatever material was dry milled, we place it onto the blender and we blend it. After addition of glidants and lubricants. And then we take the same bin for compression. So this was one type of granulation suite. Okay, so there's another type, where if you have, like I said, that you're in this case, when you have multiple products which you process, you use this type of system. But when you have a single dedicated product and you manufacture, and you need to manufacture the same day in, day out with a very high output, there's a different type of suite which is available. I'll just share the video again. So can you see my screen now?
Yes, Amish, you can.
So this is called as a closed transfer or integrated granulation suite, which is automatic, and you hardly need any manual intervention. Here we have shown the centrifugal sifter. So with the help of vacuum, the excipients and the APIs, it's directly sifted inside the centrifugal sifter and is directly moved into the granulator. And here you can see the spray type binder adhesion system. Yeah. You just spray the binder onto the granule bed or the powder bed. Then after your granulation process is complete, you do the wet calibration, and the wet is directly attached to the at the entrance of the fluid bed dryer. So whatever material is getting milled, with the help of the gravity and vacuum, it is directly moving into the fluid bed dryer. This is how a fluid bed dryer looks like. It has the air processing units for both the incoming and the outgoing air. You channel the air to different filters, and the final passing is through the HEPA filters, and you dry and you heat the incoming air so as to dry your granules. So here your granules are getting suspended in the air and they are getting dry. On the top you can see finger bags. So in some cases there is a single finger bag is used, but in bigger dryers they use the twin finger bag system, where if one bag is in the process and the other one shakes. So after drying, with the help of the vacuum, the dried granules are directly transferred into the conical mill. And after dry milling, it is directly transferred into the blender. This is octagonal blender. So no human intervention required. And when you have a dedicated product, you can run it day in, day out with this type of technology. So this was it, and this brings an end to the presentation, and you can discuss your doubts.
Thank you, Mr. Amish. It was indeed an informative session. Our audience got a glimpse of latest techniques in wet granulation, which are used in pharma industry to overcome the challenges of conventional technique. Once again, thank you very much for sharing your time and expertise with us. Dear participants, we'll be sharing the feedback link in the chat box. Kindly fill the feedback form, and e-certificates will be issued only to those who will be submitting the feedback form. Now the session is open for any doubts or any queries from the audience. You can unmute and ask your doubts, participants.
First question, Amish.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Specification where you need high shear granules and where you need low shear granules for tableting.
So, ma'am, see this. That this depends on your formulation. As I explained, when you need an extended release tablet or sustained release tablet, you go for high shear granulation, because in high shear granulation, the complex formed is very dense. I mean, you get denser granules. So the interparticulate distance, the matrix which is formed is very dense. And in denser granules, it takes more amount of time for the water to penetrate inside, or the fluid in which they get the disintegrating fluid. It takes more amount of time. So your release is sustained. So you go for high shear granulation in such cases. Whereas if you need immediate release, you go for low shear granulation. Usually in such cases where you get porous granules, in low shear granules you get porous granules. So the interparticulate distance is not much. Okay, so the water easily moves inside, or the fluid easily moves inside, and it breaks the link, or it breaks the cross linkage. So your tablet disintegrates fast.
At the same time, you should have a good enough pressure for Western.
Yeah, so for that we are using various excipients, like even if you there are certain formulations which we do using high shear granulators. They are orally disintegrating, but like in that case you have to use super disintegrants. It will break the tablet from inside.
Done from my side. Yes.
Any other question? Any?
Hello.
Hello, madam. May I ask question?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Yes, sir.
भाई अमीश, ये बहुत
Yes,
छोटा
sir.
सा सवाल है,
जी
मैं
सर.
भूल जाता हूँ इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ. व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस lubricant, glidant and anti-adherent?
Okay, so sir, basically lubricants, they lubricates the the outer side of the granules, and they help the granules to flow from the hopper. I mean, to flow from the hopper of
Hopper
the
to die.
compression machine. Yes, hopper to die. Whereas and the glidants, they coat the granules in such a way that it will reduce the interparticulate friction between the granules.
And anti-adherent?
Anti-adherents, they prevent sticking of the granules to the compression punches.
अच्छा. Okay, thank you, Amish.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, should I ask my doubt?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Firstly, related to the sophisticated techniques and the machineries, are they available in small size, intermediate size, or large size?
Yes, yes, of course. The all of the machines which are being used in the industry these days, they are all available in 3 sizes. First is the R&D, then the pilot, and the production. So all of the machines, whatever machines you use, they are always available in all the 3 sizes.
Okay. Now, second question related to the same is now with this again the sophisticated techniques, use of machineries. If an optimization design has to be applied, whether the independent variables remain the same, or they would be less, or they would be more. I hope you have understood my question.
Like
if any optimization design has to be applied using these equipment, these techniques, then whether they would be the same, are being used.
So the
or they would be different.
independent variables, they are always, as I said, there are 3 attributes basically which we need to which we see, like the process and the formulation. So the process and formulation attributes will always remain the same. Only the equipment attributes which is there, it will vary from equipment to equipment which you use. But even though all of the equipments, they have similar design and they have similar role in doing what they need to be, but what it is used for. So the attributes will not change much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Any other question from the participants? Okay. I think that's all we had questions. Okay. Now today we have wonderful audience with us, so I don't want to miss this opportunity to capture them all in the photograph. I request you all to switch on your camera for the photograph, and I request Dr. Rashmi Jain to take the photograph. I request all the
Madam, may I?
Yes, sir.
May
yes,
I
sir.
speak few words?
Yes, yes. Sir.
Hi, Amish.
hello, sir.
How are you, Amish?
I'm fine, sir. How are you doing, sir?
Actually, fine. So actually, I'm very proud of you. And this was a very nice session. Whatever the knowledge you have provided, although I am from the pharmacology background, it is very easy to understand, and many concepts have been clear to me. Although I joined late, but it was a very good session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll just say that it was a great honor to be here today, and I've always attended sessions in OCP as student. So for the first time, I was here giving session in front of the people from whom I have studied. Okay, so I still remember my very first civics lecture. The first semester of first year BPharm was taken by Ashish sir, and he's still, listening today. So
Actually, we all are students. Actually, we are all are students until we go to the grave.
Thank you, sir.
So thank
Yes,
you very much for a nice session.
Very nice session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so
And
much.
I wish you all the best. I wish
Thank
you
you
all
so
the
much.
best.
Thank you, sir.
You have
Thank you.
brought industry in our college.
Whatever I said, most of the basics I've learned here and what I've learned outside. It was just a combination of that.
I request all the participants to switch on their camera for the photograph.
Excellent informative session, Amish.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Please keep your mic on mute mode. Okay. Dr. Rashmi, I request Dr. Rashmi to take the photograph.
Think it is done.
Dr.
Over.
Rashmi, done?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Again, a gentle reminder to submit the feedback form for the participants. I would like to end this session with a vote of thanks. I would like to thank our management for their constant support. I would like to thank our principal madam for her constant encouragement and timely help. I would also like to thank our speaker for the day, who shared wonderful presentation and gave us the practical insights on wet granulation technology. I would take this opportunity to thank our HOD, Dr. Pradnya Palika Shanbag, for her constant motivation. Also, I would like to thank pharmaceutical department, entire teaching and non-teaching staff, as well as IT department for the smooth conduct of this webinar. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the participants who are present here for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much for everything, organizer.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
madam.
Thank you, ma'am.